what's up, everybody? Sorry about the delay. We are finally live. Had a couple little hiccups tonight. First one being I totally spaced the fact that tonight was my son's basketball team pictures, and I've been helping coach the team, and we had to run over there real quick. So, and then Richie had a little bit of trouble getting his phone to work with the StreamYard app. So anyways, guys, we are live here. Sorry about the delay. Might work out. Seems like 8 o'clock sometimes is hit or miss. So let me know what time you guys like to listen and watch to these podcasts. We've had people recommend earlier in the evening, people recommend later. So here we are. We're episode number 65, and we have a reoccurring, repeating offender, and that is Richy Laughery. Okay, and he's going to talk about kayak fishing, swim bait fishing. He's going to talk about fishing club tournaments. We got a lot of things about. He's going to talk about fishing the Ozarks lakes. You know, a lot of things. I think a lot of you guys may be interested in hearing, and a lot of things that I'm passionate about. Richy, although I don't talk to him a whole lot, I would consider him a good friend of mine. I've known him for many years now, just about as long as I've been kayak fishing, and he is definitely an ambassador for not only kayak fishing but swim bait fishing. So there's going to be a lot of swim bait guys that are going to enjoy this content that maybe know Richy firsthand, or maybe have heard of him on the forums like Swim Bait Universe and all those places. So Swim Bait the South, I know he's on there, pretty active as well. So guys, I do want to thank you for tuning in. Do me a favor real quick. I see there's a few of you guys jumping on. Danny, what's up? Appreciate you tuning in tonight. Do me a favor, guys. Share this to a local fishing group. Share it to your local club group. Share it to a fishing page that you're active in. Share it with some buddies of yours. We want to get some engagement going on during this podcast. If we don't, that's fine. Once me and Richy get to talking fishing, it'll just drag on probably way longer than you care to listen to. But if we have some engagement, we'll kind of know where you guys want to see this conversation go. Otherwise, we'll just nerd out on this stuff. So do me a favor. Let me know where you guys are listening from tonight, if you would, in the comments below. I see there's several of you people. I would appreciate a location. Just curious where you guys are all from. We've got obviously this home base for Behind the Reel is in Kansas, so we're going to have some Kansas guys. Richy's just next door over there in Missouri, so definitely going to have some Missouri guys. But sometimes I am surprised when people win some of these giveaways and stuff. We've got people listening from all over the country, so let me know. Where are you guys listening from tonight? Let's see that over in the live comment feed. I'm going to go ahead and bring Richy on. And do me a big favor and share this link. Let's get some more people on here. What up, man?
Good evening.
How are you doing?
Oh, not too shabby.
Sorry to be a little bit behind schedule here tonight.
It's all right. We're here.
Heck yeah. We got Danny in the house. Danny is from Southeast Kansas, and he's congratulating us on number 65.
Nice. Thank you.
So we got some people over there in Missouri too. Looks like kayak and bass.
So where do we want to start? 2022 has been a fun year.
Yeah. So that was a great way to end it. Do you have another tournament between now and the end of the year, or was that it?
Stockton on December 17th.
Okay. So for those of you guys that don't know, we're bringing Richy on to talk about his win at Table Rock Lake. This was an event put on by the MOYAK Winter Series. Was that stop number one?
Yes, it was.
So he won the first one of the year. He did it on a swim bait. That's the way he likes to fish, and his home fishery. And we're gonna kind of dive into that. So if you guys have any questions that are maybe specific to how he was fishing, the bait he was fishing, we're not going to drop any coordinates tonight. I've sworn Richy to secrecy there. He wanted to drop some pins for you, but I won't let him. So But, if you guys have questions about fishing big swim baits out of a kayak, all these things we're definitely going to go over tonight. But post those over in the live comment feed over there as well. But if you want to just start out with maybe, let's go ahead. Let's recap for the year. So you said 2022 is a good year. I know you caught a lot of good swim bait fish.
Yep.
So if you just want to kind of maybe give us a recap of the year leading up to this event, and then we can kind of start on it.
Oh, I had a really good spring between March and May. Top 5 bass include, you want to start from the top or the bottom of the top 5 by weight?
Either way.
Start from the bottom.
Let's start from the bottom. I like that. Let's build some suspense here.
The
smallest fish was how big?
Of the top 5.
Yeah.
612.
Yeah, that's the small one.
That's the small one.
And we're in Missouri.
Yep. 612 on an 8-inch megabass mag draft.
Okay.
7-8.
That's the next one.
That's the next one.
Okay.
That was my first depths 250 fish.
The very first one on the trout?
That I landed. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It'd been smacked and followed before, but that's the first one I hooked into and landed.
We're still in Missouri.
Yep.
Okay.
So this one technically not a swim bait fish, but 715.
We don't have any. There we go. I think he's back.
Next one, number 3 is 715.
Holy, we're already, and we're only 3 fish in.
Technically not a swim bait fish. That was on a black and blue jig. Okay. With a matching craw.
Okay.
That's like when it's really next to like a big soft plastic. That black blue jig is one of my favorites when it's still really cold.
Are you throwing like an Arky head style jig still? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I found a source for them after I guess jackbaits went away.
Yeah, they did. I think they got bought out by some other company and they just got rid of them.
And so I found another local guy. I actually just took delivery of like the 30 jig heads he gave me.
Oh, heck yeah.
And so next up.
Okay.
I don't have the bait, but 8.6.
Wow.
It's on the 6-inch Gizzard Wizard by Legend of the Abyss.
Okay.
It's a 6-inch paddle tail, shad profile. Number 1 at the top, 9-1. Wow. On a 6-inch mag draft freestyle.
Wow, the freestyle. Okay, so what'd you have that rigged up with?
A-dot beast hook. So I started with a weightless beast hook, and I take rubber core sinkers, 1/8 and 1/4 ounce, and I think that one just had the 1/8 ounce pinched on the hook shank.
Okay. I just looked up the Gizzard Wizard, Legend of the Abyss. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just looked it up. I don't have a very good photo here to share with you guys, but yeah. So it's just a big paddle tail.
Actually, let me send you.
You got something?
Yeah, I got something. I kind of like this app. I can get in here and shoot you pictures.
Well, shoot, you can even if you had something pulled up on your browser, you could even share it. I found out here recently, so I didn't realize that. What about length on the 9-pounder?
You might want to turn your ringer off if we're gonna do that.
Yeah, I thought I did earlier. I don't know what the heck's going on.
So the 9-1 was 20. I'll just shoot you pictures. There's the 9-1.
Yeah, sorry about the dinging, guys. I don't know how to stop that.
$22.5 or 22 3/4, maybe. No, I think that one was 23 even. Okay, that's the 8.6 Gizzard Wizard fish.
Okay.
I almost lost that bait in its gullet. That's where it was hooked initially.
Yeah.
I went to set my phone down, and the hook fell out, and like it was just it had gulped and the end of the tail there on the left was down its gullet.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, get out of there.
Heck yeah, that's a big one. What'd you say on the on the 9 pounder? What'd you say it was? What it measured at?
I think 23. I sent you a board pic.
23, and then this one here was 22 and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah. Heck
They
yeah.
grow like footballs in the spring. These are not bed fish.
There you go. Can you guys see that one? That's the same length. That's just fatter.
I've put those pictures side by side. It is different fish.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were caught 2 weeks apart.
Sure.
So, fun fact, the 9-1 and the 6-12 were caught 10 casts apart and had my 5-year-old in the back of the lure.
Oh wow. That's crazy. I bet he was going nuts.
Oh yeah.
He's just like, yeah, this is what fishing is, huh? Like you're just setting him up for
Yeah.
failure there.
Well, I'll say this. So I caught that 715 on the jig, and then I had 3 weeks of skunk.
Yeah.
And then
talk about that. That's something that people don't talk about a lot.
Just conditions looked right, and weren't panning out. And it was I was kind of fishing the same area where I'd caught them, but the water was getting really, really clear. Generally, when I get these fish shallow, we're talking maybe 3 to 5 feet visibility. It was probably tickling 20-foot visibility when I was going through the skunk towards the end of the skunk. But then I moved a little, offshore and started looking at laydowns and big structure pieces in like 10 to 15 feet. And then I started finding like the 4 and 5 pounders again.
Really?
And then the water dirtied up a little bit from a spring rain, and then I found them shallow again, with that 9-1 and the 6-12, and it was either the next week or the week after I caught that 8-6. But I mean, even in between, I'm still getting 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
I'm at a certain point. It's like if it ain't 6.0 plus, it doesn't get a well documented picture.
Yeah.
I do, or if I have a new bait. In May, middle of May, I went down to Kevin's, KGB Swim Baits,
Mm-hmm.
to a shop in Northwest Arkansas, and I walked out of there with a blank Chad, and then a legend that Peyton had painted in a American shad color.
Yeah, that thing looks really good.
And I went out that next weekend and caught a 512 on it.
Oh hell yeah! Didn't even make it on the top 5.
And yeah.
So okay, so this is your top 5 for spring, or is this 1 month?
That was roughly a 2.5 month period. That's
Sure.
pretty much the best for the year. I've caught 4s and 5s since then.
Yeah.
My last big fish was a 21 and a half or 21 and 3/4, but it only weighed 5.2.
Right.
It was, you can see in the picture, it's pretty scrawny.
Yeah.
And then I had a 21 or like a 20 and 3/4. It weighed 5.3 on the Mega Dog.
Okay. Hell yeah. Now, are you fishing? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm wondering, are you fishing tournaments throughout the year with MOYAK? Are you, like, what does that look like for the rest of the year? So these are kind of your spring fish. Are you fishing a bunch of tournaments throughout the year, or monthlies, or what does that look like as far as your tournament stuff goes?
I did not participate in any of the spring monthlies. There was a group They're based out of Texas, called the Bass Grabbers Group.
Okay.
The guy there decided he was going to run a swim bait only group, only tournament.
Tournament.
And some kid from Indiana asked about it on like Swim Bait Universe, and I jumped into it. There was only 5 or 6 participants, but it was a 7 fish limit, and I didn't really, how people or different groups may have their different requirements for their photo submissions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I did not review their requirements thoroughly, and like I'm taking a picture of that 9-1, and I covered the gill plate, and they
Mm-hmm.
wanted like the hand on the belly.
Right.
I started with a 22.5 inch deficit because that fish got DQ'd because I was touching the gill plate.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a newer rule. Do you guys see that in MOYAK, or do they care?
I mean, as long it's been adjusted, um, I'll have to review it. I've made adjustments to my own grip, but as long as like the fingers aren't up in the gill,
Yeah.
I think it's still okay to have like a finger or two on the gill plate, just not
Yeah.
covering the eye.
Because we have like a what we call a no touch zone, and it kind of mirrors the Chad Hoover thing that he instituted last year.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea behind it is obviously to prevent people from cheating.
Yeah.
That's the idea behind it. But yeah, it definitely sucks when something like that happens, and it sucks that not everybody's rules are the same. Like it would, it'd be a little bit easier if we
Yeah.
all had the same rules. So definitely, guys, that's one to learn from. That's one that he'll do. I guarantee you, every
Yeah.
tournament moving forward is he's going to make sure like he's on the same page. So I've heard of other people getting DQ'd for, maybe not submission, like
And I mean, it was a 1 inch difference.
it
If
was,
I had
yeah,
my hand
just a little,
1 inch towards the tail, it would
yeah,
have been fine.
yeah, yeah. And that's
And
because, and you got 7 fish. So you got, there's a lot of room
yeah,
to make up there.
it was a month long, and so I won it, uh, and I won it with like a 9 inch lead.
Oh, shoot. You still won it.
Yeah, yeah. So the 9-1, the 6. Oh, okay. So the 9-1 didn't count. So the 6-12, the 8-6, the 7-8. I have another 21.5 inch fish. I didn't weigh it because I was in the middle of a frenzy. Uh, Another 20, and I think I had like a 19 I couldn't get rid of. Uh, if I was able to get rid of like that 19 and I think an 18, I would have eclipsed over 140 inches for 7 fish.
Wow. Now, okay. So what attracts you to the winter series in particular? Is
So,
it a schedule thing? What is it for you?
well, okay, so I've had this lure 13.5. It's a 17 model. I took delivery of it in spring of 18 and been modifying, playing with it, doing little different things. I'd done pod mounted trolling motor setups with it, and they worked okay, but I really, really wanted a rear mount trolling motor, and I didn't want to dick with the foot pedals. I didn't want to have the separate hand throttle. I had done that on the other Emotion 11 footer, and it's a mess to fish with. So I had come across some, actually two, coincidentally. I got them a month apart. Minn Kota 28-pound thrust Whispers, foot control, and they have a narrow pedal uh, that I was able to rig up in the lure.
Nice.
And I had tried it in a pod mount configuration, and it did okay. I had a rudder on the back, um, but I really wanted it on the back. And the place I used to work at, we took delivery of boats that were equipped. the remote, the throttle control, and all the cables and wiring were for Mercury, Evinrude, Yamaha, and we ran all Honda motors, so nothing crossed over. So it all had to be changed out. So I had this 16-foot throttle cable. I knew I'd just use it for something. And I took this trolling motor apart. I can extend wiring all day, but you know that push-pull cable, it's really particular. And the ends of the cables were, I mean, I had to do 0 modifications to the pedal side. And there was a little extension on the sheathing, and then I welded on the threaded piece to the cable, put it on the straight gear for the head of the trolling motor, and I now have a rear mounted, stern mounted, foot controlled trolling motor on that lure.
Cool.
And oh dude, Hobie 360 can KMA, dude. This thing this thing works wonders. And so I hadn't you have to have your kayak registered for to compete in the tournaments.
Yeah.
And I hadn't taken the time to properly register it, but I had used it all summer. So that's why really I hadn't used it, fished a lot of the tournaments. I did sign up for the August monthly because the end of July I got into some good fish. And when I did fish for that monthly, I did not put the trolling motor on the kayak, or I'd use the other kayak because they don't have a trolling motor on it at all. And so I've got 45 trips under my belt using this trolling motor setup. I'm really comfortable with it in wind and heavy current. I know we're all about black bass fishing, but I had a really good striper season this year.
Yeah.
We
I tried to use a striper pick for the thumbnail, but it didn't work out. Even though this podcast wasn't really going to be about striper fishing, I think that's something cool that people might find interesting about Richy and about that part of the country is that he gets on some good striper and even in the kayak. So anyway,
I shot you. That little ding was a picture of my 40-pounder this year.
Oh, okay. Is that the one was that out of a boat, or I'll pull it up?
That was out of the kayak.
Holy crap.
That was my best day this year.
Is that your PB?
My kayak PB. It beat it by 4 pounds.
That's his old alias there, the swim bait slinger.
Oh, it's still current alias.
Okay. I think that was your Facebook name for a long time.
Yeah, then Facebook was like, hey, that's not your real name. You have to change it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I think now if you look at my profile, it has it in like gray parentheses.
Oh, okay.
Like as a nickname, but
he's still the swim bait slinger, people.
But nope, that was the biggest of 3 fish I caught that day. I actually had a 28 and a 33 pounder before that fish.
Heck yeah.
And then my brother was home from the Navy, and he was in my other kayak, and I got him on a 30 pounder, and it set a new PB for him.
Very cool. Heck yeah. And are you targeting those with big baits?
Oh shoot, yeah. That Mega Bass, Mega Dog 220. It's 8.5 inches.
Wow.
It's essentially a spook. Yeah. The Depths 250, the Legend. I had a couple of smaller ones on a Shad. This is another one that painted for me. I run 2X hooks on them when I fish for the striper. In the wintertime, I'll lighten up that hardware and get them to nearly suspend for fishing for like the 3 main black bass like on Table Rock.
Yeah.
But I really this year they wanted it wide and either fast or slow. I think I had only a handful of them fish on like straight line, soft plastic style baits.
Okay.
Uh, I'd catch a couple of fish like on that Mega Dog, and then I'd try like a 10-inch mag draft, not a whiff, and I'd go back to that Mega Dog and get bit, or I'd catch a couple on a legend, and like a was it 13 fishing Banff shad, not a whiff, and I'd go back to legend and pick up another fish.
Hmm.
Don't know what it was, but I'm gonna throw what they like.
Oh, heck yeah. Scott wants to know what medium to large soft swim baits do you like for bass, and where and when do you use them?
Um, Hold on. You okay, Wes? Uh-oh. Hold on, give me a sec. I heard yelling.
Okay. All right.
Be right back.
The kids might be in trouble here. I know he likes to throw the mag draft for sure. And then a little bit earlier, he was talking about a bait that you can look up. It's called the Gizzard Wizard, and I don't know if maybe the company that makes it is Legends from the Abyss, possibly. But that's one that he caught one of his best fish of the year on. So that's one that I was unaware of that apparently he uses and catches some big ones on.
What's that?
Oh, okay. So Scott was asking about your favorite medium to large soft swim baits. I mentioned that you like the mag draft. I thought, anyways. I know
Yep.
one of your best fish came off of it, and then I mentioned that you caught one of your best fish from the year on the Gizzard Wizard. And then is the
Yep.
company name Legends from the Abyss? Is that?
Yeah.
And the bait is called the Gizzard Wizard.
Uh,
But yeah,
I'm not
maybe.
sure if Ryan Perry is making baits at the moment. I actually won that on they were doing a live show on Instagram, and I was a lucky draw on that bait
Heck
back in
yeah.
the spring. And like a week or two later, I turned around and caught that fish on it.
Holy crap. Now, what are your other soft baits that you like to throw?
Oh, Savage Gear.
Okay.
The pulse tail trout.
Okay.
Uh,
Is that something like this time of year you would throw, or
yes.
is the pulse tail like the vortex or whatever?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I actually just got a Nate's in a Secret Santa, and
Nice.
it's got
Yeah.
that vortex style tail.
Yeah.
Nate's slash working class zero trout.
Okay.
Kind of almost the same deal. Uh, but that's got a 12-watt beast in it.
And then you mentioned I know you well, tell me this. So one of your best fish was a freestyle mag draft, right? But you fish
Uh,
them both ways, and when do you fish one versus the other?
so as of spring 2018, I no longer fish the rigged ones. Uh, I had a nude rainbow 6-inch fresh out of package. Uh, got into a flurry. Had 1 6-pounder on it. Uh, Landed that fish, no problem. Unhooked it. Uh, Pictures, weigh it, let it go. 1 2 casts later, hooked into another similar size fish. Got it up to the nose of the kayak, and here bait go flying in the air. I was like, oh, he threw the bait, and it lands on the deck. No swivel, no hook,
Mm.
and the harness is ripped out of the plastic. Um, from then on, so the 6-inch mag draft is honestly small. Um, you're much more You're going to be so much more versatile and a little cheaper on the long end if you just buy the freestyle 2-pack, because it's the same price as the rigged one.
Yeah.
You do have to spend an extra $10 for hooks, but or whatever you use for rigging. I found another rigging I'll touch on here in a minute.
Okay.
Uh, but like 8-aught beast hook, 3/8 ounce is what I use on that 6-inch freestyle. And I mean, if you like throwing spinner baits, chatter baits, uh, bumping square bills into the bottom, um, fish that mag draft in the same places the same way.
Okay.
Or even run an 8/0 flashy swimmer. Uh, a hook that little bit better, because I know some guys get a little weird. They get a little weird about all this hook hanging below the bait. Uh, the VMC heavy duty willow blade hook uh, is a little snug fitting on those mag drafts, so it makes for a little better profile.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get the advantage of the blade and
Right.
flash. And then oh man, you're gonna make me go grab them.
Well, I was looking for mine. I know you probably saw me squirming, but I had some here that I was gonna hold up. But
So the
um,
other rigging that
sure.
I started using this year, the you got the Z-Man Eye Strike chatterbait. It's
Mm,
like the big old dropper eyes, and it's got a 5/0 or 4/0 hook. It fits the 6-inch mag draft freestyle really well. I do core out the nose a little bit with a straw, so you don't risk tearing the nose out, because that chatterbait has a big double spike keeper on it.
mm-hmm.
Uh, but the tail and the blade, they match each other. Uh, Unlike with a Kitech where it's really slow and you got that blade going in the front,
Mm-hmm.
it entered that slow Kitech tail interferes with that blade action.
Sure.
Uh, and I caught some, I mean, 3, 4, 5 pound fish on that chatterbait setup.
That's cool. It's something
Half
different.
ounce, by the way.
They're probably not seeing many other people using that same setup.
No.
Um, okay, so mag draft freestyles, and then was that the only failure you've seen on the rigged one?
Yeah, that's it. And
Have you heard of other
it's
people or?
yeah, I've heard of other people having that same issue. The harness gets ripped out, the weld, the oh, like the hairpin part on the harness, it's got a little spot weld on the 6-inch, and that comes apart. Then the swivel and hook works its way down, knocks the magnet out during the fight, especially if you get a fish that comes up and thrashes,
Yeah.
knocks that magnet out, and it just works its way all the way around out that harness.
Hmm. Let's see. So we got some tips for fishing the mag draft there. Um,
Oh, like spinnerbait, seriously. Um, any way you can fish a spinnerbait, you can fish a weedless rigged mag draft. You can bump it on the bottom,
yeah.
uh, get the weightless hooks, and I mean you can do as minimal as like 3 storm suspend strips on the shank, and reel it just fast enough. It'll go below the surface, and I mean they'll slam the crap out of it.
Hmm.
It's almost like fishing a plopper. You're not breaking the surface, but you're bulging the surface. So I mean, anywhere where you throw a plopper, a buzz bait, uh, you could throw that lighter weighted mag draft freestyle, and they skip really good too.
So what do you say to the person that's like, man, I really want to have that treble hook on that bait, for landing fish or whatever. Are you missing fish on the freestyle? Do you think or?
Not very often. Uh, I've tried some. I'll still rig it weedless, with a smaller. I'll do like a 4/0 beast hook, and then do it's a 150 pound test single wire, uh, with a haywire twist, and I'll put like a number 4 Gamakatsu 2X on the back. Uh, I caught fish doing that. Um, Back was 2 years ago. I was missing some fish, but I where teeth marks were laying on the bait, because you'll see them on the mag drafts.
Yeah.
I've got, they just weren't. They were biting tails and stuff, and you would have missed it with or without the treble hook anyway.
Sure.
And that's where that kind of brings up a good point of switching. I don't have too many issues with colors. Match the hatch, in dirty water, uh, especially like the mag draft, it puts off enough vibration. They're gonna find it regardless of what color it is if they're gonna eat it. When the freestyle, because I was making the freestyles before there was freestyles, but
Right.
when they debuted, it was actually that trip where I had the rigged one come apart on me. I had got in on the hookup tackles pre-order for the freestyles, so I had uh, whiteback shad, blackback shad, brownie, and I think pearl. I had 4 different colors, and then I had the nude rainbow rigged. And I mean, we're talking a foot or two of visibility. It was dirty, and I'd catch it. I was throwing like the brownie first, and I was missing a couple of fish, but that's missed fish on the big softies like that can also be contributed to your hook set and not allowing the fish to eat. But anyway, I missed a couple of fish, threw that rigged one, caught and lost those 2, and tied it back on. And I would let them. I'd feel the first tick and just keep reeling. You feel second tick, and then swing on them. It's like they were grabbing the tail, and then they'd go for a second bite. Um, but like my best fish that day was like 98 inches, my best 5. Um, but I caught one on the brownie. I'd cut the bait off, tie on the pearl. Catch another fish on the pearl, cut it off, tie on the blackback shad. Cut it off, tie on the whiteback shad, catch another fish. And I mean, we're talking doing this within 25, 30 casts.
Wow.
Um, but another thing to do is switch sizes. 2 years ago when I caught my 9.5, I had 2 fish on back-to-back casts on the 6-inch. So I was like, oh, there's a school here. I want the bigger one. I had like an 18 and a like a 19 and a quarter. I want a bigger fish, so I tied on the 8-inch, which I didn't have the year or 2 before. I didn't have it on me for that trip, so I was able to up the size. 2-3 casts later, I had a 23-inch 9.5 pounder on the end of the line.
Wow.
Now I've thrown the 10-inch for largemouth. I don't think I'll get a lot of spotted bass and smallmouth on it, but there's I'm kind of gaining a little aspect as into Butch Brown's world with the 8-inch HUD and catching everything, because I've tried the 10 and the biggest fish I've mustered on it is a 412.
Really?
And they just I really I went as far as getting a 13.5-inch Rafa Godfather glide bait this year.
Wow.
It weighed 16 ounces.
Jeez.
I lost it, by the way.
Yeah, that thing's gonna sink, ain't it?
Yeah, especially when it lands about 60 feet away from you and it sinks a foot a second.
What does something like that cost?
I paid 150, 175 for it.
Yeah. Okay,
Plus,
so
anyway, moving on.
yeah, we don't want to talk about that anymore.
But 6 and 8-inch, like 9-inch sizes. The depths is right now, other than the KGB King, that's 11 inches, 1.5, 2 inches of that brush tail. The Depths 250 and like the Savage Gear 12-inch, but it folds up really nice. Is about the biggest stuff I'm gonna kind of stick to. But
Okay.
for bites, 6 and 8-inch size all day.
Now, so what did the Table Rock event look like? If you just want to maybe start out with what you knew going into that event, if you were doing some pre-fishing, if you were
Hold on,
on
Bubba.
some fish.
Yeah.
So just kind of go into that.
I had been kind of pre-fishing that same area for a month. I actually had a guide trip in September that I took David Mole. He's had some articles in Bassmaster Magazine and Kayak Angler Magazine.
Nice.
He didn't catch any fish, but I had fish show themselves and almost had a double on the blink Chad out of a treetop. Except when they came and bit the bait, they kicked the bottom out and bit the back. And the second fish also bit the back. So it's really hard to get the hooks when they do that.
Yeah.
That is also an area that had produced for me in the past this time of year. The 2020 MOYAK Championship on day 2, I actually caught the biggest one-day limit of that tournament from that area. It didn't matter because I only turned in 2 fish on day 1. But and then the latest 5-pounder that was on the Mega Dog 220, that was in that area the week before the tournament. Out of a treetop and near Steep Bank. It's near main channel, the old river channel on Table Rock. So, but this is middle of the day, 10:30, 11:30 in the morning. Tournament started at 7:30. It was cold. I took my sweet time getting on the water. I don't think I made my first cast till like 8:15. I had actually spent $200 on a Matco heated jacket.
Okay, I've seen those. Yeah.
I already had some Cabela guidewear bibs. I had snow pants under those with another layer of thermals. I had insulated snow boots on. I had thermals, a sweater, and then that heated jacket, which I had on low all day. It's got this giant accessory battery pack that you can like plug your cell phone and stuff into. I still had 40% when I was done at the end of the day. Didn't sweat and didn't shiver. So 8:15, I make my first cast around these trees, and I'm not seeing anything. There's just the slightest little, what was it, blowing to the east wind, and this time of year on Table Rock, regardless of the history of that spot, fish in the trees, steep, rocky banks, bluff banks, windblown, has been a go-to pattern for me with glide baits for 9 years. When it's too windy for a kayak, I've walked the bank and caught 100 inches of fish within a 100-yard stretch. On like S-Waver 200 and Chad and Legend. But really didn't have, at that time, didn't have the kayak equipped or the right kayak to be fishing in those conditions. Because, I mean, it's a washer machine when you're out there and it's blowing 10, 15 miles an hour across the lake with small white caps into a bluff bank. I mean, it's just a back and forth wash.
Yeah.
and it helps with a 13.5 foot kayak with a rear mount trolling motor, because then you can back off uh, the bluff, keep yourself off that bluff without the front mount. So if you had it front mounted, your kayak would be, the back end would be at
Backwards.
the bank.
Yeah.
Whereas I got it mounted in the back, the wind blowing into the bank, I'm pointed, I can sit and
There you
control that.
Okay. That's
And having fished with that kayak in heavy current, I knew how to manage it with the wind blowing straight into the bank and still keep myself casting parallel to a bluff bank. And so I left the trees. I wasn't getting bit. Went to this bluff bank, and it's on the old river channel. I mean, when I say bluff, when you're driving down this area of Missouri and on the highways, and you see them hills where they're cut, and it's like 10-foot drop, 3-foot ledge, another 10-foot drop, 3-foot ledge. That's literally what I was fishing. But was only fishing the bait 4 or 5 feet off the bank, the exposed bank. And there's little crevices and little peaks and stuff, uh, other rocks, and just little points, just little deviations in that rock wall. That's where them fish will stage ambushing bait. And I got set up on this bank to fish, and caught a 16 something inch spotted bass on Chad, and got that fish measured, made another cast, caught my 19 3/4 inch smallmouth, got that fish measured, released, made a second cast after that, caught an 18.5 inch smallie on the Chad. There was another smallmouth with it that was about the same or a hair bigger size, and then continued on down this bank and caught 2 more spotted bass. And I mean, I had my limit in 20 minutes.
That's crazy.
And that got me sitting on top. But having learned from past experiences, don't get comfortable sitting on top early in the day, especially when you got guys like I think Levi Schneider. Didn't he win like the spring Table Rock All-American
I don't know.
this year? And then
Maybe.
Dwayne Beatty,
Oh yeah.
he was fishing it. And there was guys catching wigglewort fish that week, and I know he's a hell of a crankbait guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't resting. I went back over that area with the legend. They wouldn't touch the legend. I actually switched colors between my uh, third and fourth fish on the Chad. They wouldn't bite the natural one. They only wanted the bone. It was partly cloudy, like little bit of cloudy, a lot of sunny, but the water had some color to it. Maybe like a 5-foot visibility, but it was like tea colored.
Mm-hmm.
And so that bone really glows in that off colored water, and I think that what really helped them find it. I had a couple of followers on the more natural colored Chad, um, and a follower or two on a legend, but they weren't committing to it like they were that bone. So I was actually, if you go back down and look at second place, I was at one point, I was sitting at 84 1/4
Okay.
with the first 5. And I was, like I said, I don't get comfortable that early in the day. And so I kept fishing, but then the wind picked up. I mean, as I caught that limit, it went from 8, 9, 10 mile an hour to 15, 18 mile an hour winds, white caps. Um, I got off that bluff bank and back into the cove where I'd launched, and didn't dare turn that kayak. I mean, I had 12 and 18-inch white caps rolling past me, which was fine and going with the wind in that
Yeah.
13 and a half foot kayak, but I'm only 36 inches wide. So I didn't dare go broadside in those
Yeah.
waves.
Yeah.
But there's one cut with some trees right next to the boat ramp. That was, I was able to make a call at that championship tournament. So the wind wasn't beating it as hard, so I was able to get in there and fish it a little bit, and I called a 14 and a half inch spotted bass with a 16-inch smallmouth,
Nice.
and that pushed me another inch and a half in the lead. I still would have won by a tiebreaker with the big bass, but I liked that I was able to call at the last minute and win with a clean lead.
Yeah. So there you go, you guys that are watching here. I flashed some of these pictures across the screen. Um, there's the 19.
By the way, I did get the kayak registered 2 weeks before this tournament.
He was completely
It
legal.
it's
Don't want
legal.
anybody contesting the results here. He
I've
won.
got uh
Did
I've
you did
got
you win Big Bass?
yeah, I got big
Looks like
bass
you
with a
did.
smallmouth.
Yeah, that's pretty. It looks like everybody caught fish. I mean, there was only 3 guys that didn't turn in a full 5 fish
Yep.
limit. Everybody was catching fish, but a lot of guys were catching small fish, right?
Yeah. I
So,
chatted with second place Scott,
yeah.
and he was actually like throwing a little, I think he said it like a crappie jig. He said it was like 1.5 inches long. Uh
There's some
or
guys that do that in our group, and they do well.
And I mean, I'm not knocking it. I've taken I don't know if you remember the jackbait sled head. It's like the Demiki
Yeah.
uh, head with a 3-inch fluke, and I dropped it in 65 feet of water, and I had 3 18s out of that spot,
Wow.
and I had 18 fish in 40 minutes doing that.
Wow. Holy crap.
Yeah. Um,
So, do you think was he doing some deep stuff like that? I mean, is this the time of year where
yeah,
they're
you
out?
can. A lot of the guides start breaking out. Though, like the little slab spoons and drop shot and ice jigs and Demiki rigs, a lot of deep vertical presentations.
Sure.
Uh, and also this time of year, jerk bait starts coming into play. like I'd mentioned, wiggle warts work for a short period of time, right there in the lower 50s. So when I initially launched, surface temp was 46 on that day, and I think it warmed to 52 or
Wow.
53 degrees.
It's that time. It's that time of year.
And so, I mean, and that's worked for me.
Fishing
So
a big bait. I mean, it's a
yep,
lot bigger than, you know, Chad's 6 inches, ain't it? 7, 6, 7,
7.
7. And that's the one you caught all of them on right there.
Yep, yep. This was a bone or a blank from that 1,000 bait pre-order that Kevin did this spring.
Wow.
I got mine a month early before anyone else got theirs, but I mean it's just an unpainted bait. It starts out
And you don't have to
uh
clear it or anything. It's just
no, it
it's
starts out about that white and then it tans.
yeah. I've heard about that. Yeah.
And so he's got I probably shouldn't say anything. He's already flashed a video of the bait, but it's it's a resin bait, but it's painted like the bone, like the Spro Chad.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of smoky bone. It's got the little bit of black here and here, but he did like a chrome scale down the side. Uh, he's pre-tanning those baits for you guys.
That's cool.
And I don't know if it's going to be a Masterpiece Monday deal or what, but yeah, he's pre-tanning, so they'll already be tanned. It's funny, we were talking about it the other day. I'm like, so are you like setting all these baits out in the sun and then come back like 2-3 days later and flip them, leave them out for another 2-3 days? He's like, yeah, pretty much.
Heck
So they're
yeah.
pre-tanned.
Tricks of the trade.
Yeah. I mean, that's essentially, I've not purposely laid this out. I've just fished it.
Yeah.
And uh, so it's just turned to fishing it. And I mean, it's got, I wonder if we can get light. I mean, you can see the hook rash in the resin.
And tell us about that suspend strip you got on there. How far is that getting you down? How much does that thing weigh? Why do you have it?
So there's two suspend strips on there.
Okay.
Uh, about the only thing is with the amount of wind I was getting.
Okay.
Uh, so in the clear, a little tip with the glide baits. Once you get comfortable with them, one thing I don't fish them any deeper than 10 foot all year round.
Okay.
Um, I fish them to where they're just out of sight, unless I'm like in really stupid clear 15, 20 foot.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, it's 10 foot because them fish will move to intercept those big baits. Uh, but the first couple of throws, I mean, my first couple of fish on that bluff bank, the beginning of it is kind of it rolls up onto a shallow point, and then fish were just right there where it rolls off. Um, it was like 5-6 foot, no problem. But when I got out and around on the bluff bank, we're talking 10 to 20 feet. That may have been right there below the surface up against that bank. And it wasn't with the wind pulling on the line, that bait wasn't getting down fast enough. So I just added the two suspend strips, and that little extra weight helps it keep it down as you're presenting it. And I mean, really, um, you can steady reel them and they'll wander a little bit, or you can put a little, like in shooting pool, put a little English on the ball, and little as you're reeling, put in little pumps, and it will get the bait to shoot out. But and if you pump it rhythmically, you can get it to go back and forth, and you can speed that up or you can slow it down.
Hmm.
And they can be tuned. That sink rate can be tuned with hardware and suspend strips. Uh, I really like getting the super tunes, which the super tunes they tend to float like this with the tail just touching the surface, and as you retrieve it, it'll dive.
Hmm.
But if you add suspend strips here towards the rear of the front half, it kind of brings that back to level and it'll get it to sink about that fast.
Hmm.
And that's a really great sink rate for the wintertime. Like I said, when guys start chattering it up about throwing suspending jerk baits, that's when I get to tuning these glides. Uh, even not this I haven't this legend sank was a standard ROF3 sink, but I've gone down to a Spro. I think that's a number 4. It's a 50-pound test split ring,
Hmm.
and then I went to the bronze Gamakatsu's. That's a 1 and a 3 on it, just to lighten up the hardware, and it'll sink slower. I've got an OG legend. It's tied on. I actually got a number 2 red hook on it and a number 3 on the back, and that thing will nearly suspend. depending on the water temperature, it will bounce between floating and sinking.
You catch
And
a lot
I'll
of fish on that legend.
oh yeah.
I've heard a lot of guys they kind of recommend that size, that 9-inch size.
So
Do you
the
feel like you lose a lot of like opportunities with that bigger size with smaller fish? I mean, you catch plenty of small fish on that, right? Is what I've heard.
oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I've had a 13.5-inch largemouth on both shoals on that 9-inch legend.
right, right.
There-
That's why I just did that. Come look at what I did.
when they get
1
in
minute.
that mood, yeah, go ahead.
They'll eat it.
Yeah. So when they have that it's that fight or flight instinct. It's that I don't know what it is, but they see that opportunity, and either they have to take that opportunity or they're going to miss out on it. Their instincts just make them take advantage of it. So I've seen a lot of people talk about still catching good numbers of fish on the legend.
I've had
Yeah, tell
15
me what you think
fish.
about that.
I've had 15 fish days on like the S-Waver 200 and the legend.
Yeah.
It doesn't scare a lot of fish, but it gets the right ones to bite when they're hungry. There's a lot of I do prefer water that is disturbed over calm water, whether it be current or wind.
With the bigger baits, or
Yeah.
okay.
And I mean, if it is flat calm, no current, no wind, barely a ripple on the surface, I'm moving them fast.
Yeah.
And they when I've had like, especially with that big mega dog 220. This kid.
He's on.
I
got to lock myself out here in the garage.
Hold on.
I'd be dealing with it
Oh,
too.
we're home alone. Mommy's at work.
Yeah.
Golly. Oh, so yeah, that mega dog. I had so many like toilet flush. I mean, that much of the surface of the water's gone right behind that bait because they missed it. But I've also caught some real big fish doing that too. The Savage Gear 8-inch pulse tail, waking it on the surface. It's not a slow roll. I drill Nick, the informative fisherman, Nick Smith.
Yeah.
He has a mod video taking the weight out of that bait to make it a wake bait, and you can rig it with the bottom hook and bulge the surface with that bait. But if you leave the weight in it, you can do it faster, and it turns into a reaction bite.
Yeah.
And I mean, I had one last summer. It nearly scared the piss out of me. It bit that bait out of nowhere, 10 feet from the kayak. I did not, I mean, 5-foot visibility. I'm on a shallow flat. Did not see this fish coming. 21 and a quarter, 21 and a half inch fish. Folded that 8-inch pulse tail up in the back of its throat on the initial hit. I mean, the bend of the treble was hitting its gullet. I mean, that's how fast it folded that bait in half, swallowed it in a blink of an eye. But no, this time of year, I do prefer a windy bank. And fishing before a cold front.
Yeah.
That barometer pressure change, it gets them into a feed bag, and that's where you can get those 10, 15, 20 fish catches. And I mean, in 30 minutes to an hour. I remember one time I went out, it was like 55 degrees, and this cold front moved in. I didn't go out. I had no gloves. I had a coat on, but I literally fished till like my hand went numb from the temperature drop. I mean, it dropped 30 degrees in 45 minutes. and I left them biting. I mean, my fingers hurt. I had to leave. um, and but they get into a frenzy this time of year when the cold fronts move in.
Did electronics come into play at all at the tournament?
Not this tournament. I did have a buddy hook me up for cheap with an HDS 12
Saw that.
touchscreen.
Yeah.
The current transducer only allows for down scan and side scan. If I do any vertical fishing, like with that Demiki rig, I actually prefer the 2D. It seems a little more reactive than the down scan. Um, so I do have the traditional little puck,
Yeah.
triangular puck transducer, and it has multi ports on the back of the head unit. Um, I may run that wiring all with the trolling motor stuff and run it off the back of the trolling motor because I've got all that rigged up on the sonar pod on that lure right now.
Oh, okay.
So I don't have a spot for a second transducer.
You could shoot it through the hole too.
Yeah.
You could just epoxy it in too. But
But oh yeah, I could do that. I have a way I could route that wiring. But
so this
but
was
this
just
tournament
kind
it
of
did not.
this was just kind of a deal where you thought they were there and you just kind of found them. It wasn't something like you scanned on them and was like, oh, they're there. You know, this
Oh
is our
no.
time. Like you were
Just I knew they were just based on time of year. I knew they
right.
were there. It was just which stretch of. I mean, honestly, it was an island.
Mm-hmm.
There's only so much of that bluff bank exposed on the island. I did have another stretch of bluff bank on like the mainland, but with that wind kicking up, I could not get across that 150 yards to fish that other bluff bank because I'm out on the main lake. That wind blowing across almost a mile width of the lake, it gets to white capping really bad, and I was zero comfort trying to go sideways in 16
Yeah.
or 18, 12 to 18-inch tall white caps.
Well, and the time of year, and yeah, no.
And cold, and nah.
Trevor wants to know, have you used the floating Chad shad much? He says it was his top producer this summer, early fall.
So I don't personally have a floating Chad, but like the Livingston, the 6-inch Livingston B Viper, it has a adjustable weight chamber. I personally showed Kevin a couple of winters ago this same bluff pattern with a floating bait. We got on a bluff. We were in a skeeter, and I saw the bluff go straight, and then there was just a little point on it that from the rock falling off and stuff. It makes a little point, and I threw that bait out past that point, and just slow twitch, and I was like, "Watch." When I get next to that point, it's gonna get blown up on. And sure enough, it was like a twitch past that point, and a bass blew up on it. And his mind just went top water in December or whatever. It was like late November, December.
Yeah.
And I go, yeah. I mean, just Saturday, I made a recommendation on like Swimbait Universe. On a guy asked about wake baits in cold water. I'm like, you just gotta fish them slow.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, so years and years ago, wake bait was my first modern big bait, and gonna find out I was fishing it too fast. And so I came up with this kind of thing. I just sing the Jack in the Box rhythm in my head as I'm cranking this stuff. It's like and I mean, I'll fish them that slow, and I mean, they're just out there just wiggling on
Yeah.
the surface, and you'll know. I mean, you go to a point, laid out some structure or whatever. You'll know within 3 or 4 casts if there's a fish there. If you don't get blown up with 6 casts on a piece of prime structure, move. So I made this comment, and Matt Allen, Tactical Bassin, messaged me. He's like, "Hey, that's a really good comment. That's actually what we designed our wake for.
Okay.
Their River to Sea Tactical Wake 210, or 210. Yep."
Right there.
And I go, "Yeah, I know about the bait. I don't have one yet. Baitworks carries them though." And he's like, "You don't have one. You need to get one." And I think we might have the same color. Is
Nope.
that Hitch? Is
Nope.
that Hitch or Shad?
This is yep, tactical shad.
I got the Hitch just because
Okay.
it's got a white belly.
Yeah. Yeah, this one's kind of like a silver
Yep.
flaked out.
This is a little translucent with topwater baits, white, kind of like the tactical guys say, white, chartreuse, black, chrome. That's all you need for topwater.
Yeah.
So
sorry, I missed
so
that. Did you say he sent you one?
No, I bought one from Baitworks.
Gotcha. Okay, I was like, I thought you were gonna say like, yeah, he just sent me one.
No, he was like, he's like, "You need to get one." I'm like, "Okay, well, I just won this tournament, so I got a little play money."
Nice.
I mean, I understand the value of stuff. The box is cool, but the kind of the box kept me from buying it because
Sure.
it's like
kind of gimmicky.
it was
yeah,
pinky fancy. I mean,
bougie.
But yes, and but I bought it, and then Baitworks did this sale the Monday. You buy $50 worth of merchandise. I think it was River to Sea merchandise, and they threw one of these in for free.
Oh shoot! Damn, they must not be selling them. I think.
Dang it!
I think that they. I'm really excited that I got one, and it was a really cool deal. That my the guys that fish in the clubs that I help run bought this thing for me, and it was a gift. And they bought this for me and a rod to throw it on.
So if you look here, I did change out the hooks.
Okay. I wondered if these were good to stick with or not.
They probably are. They're 4X
they're
strength hooks.
Pretty freaking stout.
Yes, they're gaffs. That's exactly what I said to Matt. I'm like, they're gaffs. And the hooks I've got on now are the Gamakatsu. It's the new Hyper Shield medium heavy. And they're like a mid-grade saltwater hook, but they're much thinner wire.
Yeah.
And I mean,
sticky.
They're sticky. And that's mommy's. Can you get something else?
I only want one thing.
Okay.
And I like chocolate.
Anyway, but I took this out Saturday, and it has a really, I mean, reel it slow, and it still does its little side to side, and that tail is back here flicking. You can see the reflection of it. I mean, it wasn't a big fish, but it was a football of a spotted bass at 16.5 inches, but it weighed 2.5 pounds.
Yep.
I mean, absolutely creamed this thing.
What's up, Jay Flesh? I know I flashed your comment across the screen a couple minutes ago, but
you're late.
I didn't want to get sidetracked on the. Well, we were all late today, so.
Oh, yeah, true.
I was about 20, 30 minutes late today, so.
But then with also with my tournament winnings, that's a Fish Lab, the 6-inch gizzard in bone. I picked that up. I got the little Fish Lab 4-inch crank.
That's cool.
Shad.
I like that.
What the heck else did I buy? Oh, so this Depths Japan trout is a replacement A month ago, I had a 5-pounder on it, a 20-pound, 12-ounce striper, and then snagged and instantly line broke. Bull shoals has mussels, zebra mussels in it. So I think I was fishing it slow enough. It got into the bottom, into a wad of them mussels,
Yeah.
and just instantly.
So is that the new style or the OG?
Yeah, no, it's the new style.
Okay. And
It's
you
got
like
the
that?
knocker in it. I don't. They swim great.
Yeah.
I lighten up the hardware. Them same Gamakatsu medium wire saltwater hooks on it. Um, when I throw it for the striper, I do throw the black 2X hooks on it. But for the just regular black bass, I throw those or the bronze ones on it. Also lightens it up, makes it sink slower. Again, lightening it up, sink slower for the winter time.
Yeah.
Because that's how that bait got snagged up. I was fishing it. Slow pump and it'd shoot out. Slow pump and it'd shoot back the other way. And that 5-pound bass, it just went. Just a peck, and it wasn't a slam.
Yeah.
And the striper slammed it. It came in. I've got a picture, and that bait's hanging in that fish's mouth like this. And the lead treble was actually on the outside of its jaw.
Hmm.
Um, but so Stockton, it fishes the next tournament. It fishes pretty much like a mini table rock.
Okay.
It's same. It's got some when you get towards the river end of it. It's got some mud flats, some gravel flats. When you get to the dam area, you start getting into chunk rock and bluff banks and some standing timber. I literally plan on fishing it the same way
Are
as I
you
did table rock.
pretty much got your mindset on big baits only? Was that something that
Yep.
you went
I
into the tournament in mind, or?
So early on that day on Table Rock, I did bring my jig rod, and I pitched jigs to them that standing timber, and didn't get a single bite. I tried that for I gave that like 30 minutes,
I'm sure they see
and
a lot of that. Is that
yeah.
the idea behind it? I mean, just showing them something different, or?
Oh no, threadfin and gizzard shad are very prominent bait fish in that lake,
Just
in all these Ozark lakes. So they regularly see, uh, I mean, them thread fins right now, they're that 4-inch size. And there's a 9-inch legend next to that 4-inch crankbait. And I've seen 16-inch gizzards in
sure.
that lake.
Oh yeah.
Are the 5-pounders eating the 16-inchers? Probably not.
Probably not.
But that 7 and 9-inch size is a little easier to eat, especially multiples when you can stack them in your belly
Yeah.
sideways.
Trevor says he snagged a Shimano Arma joint yesterday to see what all the hype was about. What do you know about that one?
It's got a folding rear joint to make it cast better. That's about all I know.
Hmm.
It's triple trout, Benson. It's a swimmer.
Yep.
It's a thin profiled swimmer.
Do you fish those style of baits often?
I've so I used to.
You used to fish like the Spros, right?
Oh yeah. I don't think I caught a single fish on the 8-inch this year. I didn't throw it a lot either. Like I said, a lot of the wide
Right.
stuff was kind of key this year. I tried more straight line with the hard baits, and they didn't want them.
Hmm.
I threw like a Whopper Plopper 130 wouldn't touch it. But you threw a Strike King 6-inch Mega Dog, and they'd jump all over it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just going through a cycle, but it's just that's what worked better for me this year. Also, what the hell is where we going with that?
I've got a question for you.
Go ahead.
On the winter stuff, like if somebody wants to get into kayak fishing in the winter, maybe they're from the area and they want to fish these MOYAK Winter Series events or maybe some Winter Series events in their hometown. What are some recommendations, I guess, that you have? So obviously we've given them some recommendations on baits and presentations, but what about gear?
Like just cold water gear?
Cold water gear. Yeah. What are some things that you mentioned one of them was that heated jacket. Like what are some other things that
Or layers
and
and water resistant, waterproofing. You stay dry, you stay warm.
Yep.
If if worse happens, have a dry bag with extra clothes on you. There was one time, so not kayak, but I was in Kevin's boat. It was 28 degrees and blowing, and the water temp was 46. We were out front of the dam on Table Rock, and he had a bright idea. Oh, let's go troll for walleye. I'm like, okay. So I tried to turn on the graph in the front of his boat, and it wasn't coming on. And he's like, oh, he was in the back doing something. He's like, I got to turn this power switch on. I was like, okay. I had turned around, swung my ankle around, and knocked 2 of his rods off the boat. Threw mine down, jumped in the water, grabbed these 2 poles. I got both the rods and jumped back on the boat. I didn't even get my underwear wet.
Wow.
But my outer layers were still soaked and stuff, right? And we were just right around the corner. We had launched at State Park, and I had extra clothes in my truck, and was able to change, and we went back out and on the water. Now that's a little slower process in the kayak because you can't go 40, 50, 60, 70 miles an hour back to the truck.
Yeah.
So that's where that dry bag and the extra clothes in a hatch or something.
If you're in a kayak, don't jump in after the rods. They gone, baby. But what you do,
make sure you have a Savior retrofit on it.
Exactly. That's what you do. So that way you just sit there and you wait, and then you're going to see the little float pop up. You're going to grab it and you're going to just reel that thing back in, and you're in the game. So that's a good investment. So yeah, if you got something you want to flash them, I've got videos on it on how to do the installs as well. But it's and
that's on.
It's a float that attaches to the butt of your rod. That's on the KGB.
Yep.
There's
just that little section. It's all contained.
Salt bobbin in there like you have in your automatic auto-inflating life vest. And once you get enough water pressure built up, water will work its way in there, dissolve the bobbin, release the float, and it'll float to the top.
They come loaded with 60 feet of 20-pound braid.
You might need a little more in your part of the country, huh?
You can swap it out. I'm generally fishing shallower.
Yeah.
I mean, if I lose one traveling over deep water, it was probably roughest, and it was just tough luck. But but yeah, you can swap it out for like 10-pound test and double that capacity.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good one. Just also the other thing that I think that
dress for the weather,
people that might be interested to see, and we went over this earlier. Look at the stats here, because This is a December event, right? Was this
Yeah.
still December? November, maybe it wasn't. It was November 19th. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So this is November 19th, and we had 16 people fishing. 13 of 16 caught a 5 fish limit. So I think
Yep.
that a lot of people, they hear wintertime, they know that they're cold, they know that they're uncomfortable, they don't think the fish want to bite. And
I mean, if you look, I only had like a 4 inch or 5, 6 inch lead over fourth and like fifth.
yep,
2 coals, and them guys would have tickled my fanny, and I mean, another coal could have beat me. I mean,
did you say
just
tickled your fanny?
yeah, they could have been right there tickling my fanny.
God damn.
It's like, here, I'm right behind you.
I don't know if they. I don't know. Some of those guys, maybe.
I didn't say
they're in
tickle my fancy.
trouble.
None of them tickle my fancy.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, you've got.
Or nipping on my heels. There we go. They could have been nipping on my heels with a coal or two.
All right, you can't back out of that one now. You already said it.
But
It's a done deal.
um,
That's another thing that I didn't expect to see that myself. So it'd be interesting to see what happens at Stockton. See if you guys have a similar outcome.
So I've had a so I haven't fished. That was my first live kayak tournament that I fished in the last 2 years. Just stuff going on. I hadn't been able to compete in live tournaments. But let me think here. So 18 and 19, when I was fishing the Stockton tournaments, they were typically earlier, like the first tournament in the year. So it was still cold. And so I've got a little history on that lake fishing big baits in the cooler weather or cooler water temps.
Yeah.
So I'm going into it pretty confident that my area will produce with the baits that I intend on throwing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the one time I think I had like 25 interactions with that floating Livingston on a bluff bank. And I mean, wind blowing up my back, just bombing this bait down this bank. And I mean, most of the time these fish were eating it on the very end of the cast. So, I mean, poor hook sets. I mean, 8 foot rod in the water, trying to keep them from jumping, and they're all over the surface, and the bait gets thrown. And I mean, I landed 5 of 20 something fish I hooked into just because they were biting on the end of the cast, and I just could not keep them pinned.
Yeah.
And that might have been a hook issue or something. That's something you gotta be very mindful of too with these big baits. Especially like when I was striper fishing. I'd catch one, retie. I'd catch another one, retie. I didn't care how hot the action was. Um, it was last year. I was throwing a Strike King 6 inch Mega Dog. I'd caught 3 in a row, hooked into a fourth one, and he surged and just popped the line.
Yeah.
And that was the only Mega Dog I had on me. I had 2 since then, but I consistently retie after fish, especially big fish that inhale a soft plastic bait. I don't care. It could be cast after cast after cast. I'm catching them. I will still sit there and take 10 seconds and retie.
That's a good tip. So,
And I mean, just run the finger up the line, any nick, cut it right after that nick, get rid of it. I mean, we're fishing all that structure and rocks and
yeah, it's not worth losing
little
that
nick
bait
or the fish.
or yeah.
I hadn't really. I mean, other than that striper last year, this year I do not think I lost a fish to a break off.
Right.
Just because of the consistent retying and the checking of the line.
I always feel really bad when I break off on a fish because you wonder, especially on like a treble hook bait or something like
Yeah.
that. You're like, damn, man, That fish is probably going to die, unless it finds a way to get that thing out of its face.
But
Okay, well, Danny, appreciate that tip too. I think that is something that's very important, and if you guys are looking into getting into big baits, that's something that you need to learn from other people's experiences. Otherwise, you're going to be singing the same tune there.
and there's all kinds of knots to tie. I mean, tie something you're confident in. There's
San
the
Diego Jam.
Palomar. I do a single. It's like a modified single San Diego Jam. I mean, you can see it.
That's what
I
I do
mean,
too.
I mean,
But
I don't
that's the
loop
same
it
way I
back.
do it. You don't?
I don't loop it back up.
Okay, I do.
Um,
Why don't
I
you?
well, you tug on it the right way
I can
when you're, and I leave that little bit of
tag.
tag, and
I
it's
saw
weedless.
J
It's
Flesh.
weedless.
I don't know if he's on here, but he
If
says
you run it, if you run it forward and
uh-huh.
you're running it in the weeds, now it can't deflect that weeds. It holds onto the weeds and it ruins your presentation. Whereas this way, the tag will point backwards and it comes through clean.
Okay.
Fish don't swim with weeds stuck on their face.
You're probably right. J Flesh though, he I think mentioned the other day somebody was asking about a knot, and he runs a double San Diego Jam, I believe.
Yeah.
I've never tried that one.
It's the same knot.
Yeah.
You just end up with 3 freaking tag ends facing forward, and now you've got 3 tabs to catch weeds. The knot works. I'm not down and on the knot. It's just for me, I try to make that stuff as small as possible. I do 6 wraps, and whether it's 15-pound test or 30-pound test, big game, I do 6 wraps. I bring that main line through, double it up, come up, wrap down, put the tag through the both loops, and then snug it up. I've a 9-pound bass, 40-pound striper, that knot's yet to fail me.
Yeah. Heck yeah. I don't think I've had any issues with the knot either. And you're running mono too. Do you want to touch on that just a little bit?
Taneycomo 2019, no, 2020 live tournament. I had a slew of swim baits tied on mono or a co-poly and everything, and I had one braid rod. Had a 5.5 true bass paddle tail tied on that braid rod, hooked into a 21-inch fish, and it went to dancing and completely unloaded that combo and threw the bait. No tension left on the combo. I like the little bit of stretch in the mono or the co-poly just because I can keep going. I don't sit there and have a conversation with them while they're out in the water. I mean the 9.0 I caught, I had that fish's mouth pinned wide open and its body pinwheeling through the water. That's how I was winching that sucker in. That little bit of stretch with the head shakes and stuff, it doesn't yank and pull on the hook. I mean, if you're fishing for muskie, throw braid all you want. I've got a good buddy, swim bait buddy, that throws a lot of braid the leader, and that guy straightens out more hooks than he cares to admit. I've seen a lot of pictures of straight and treble hooks over the last 3 or 4 years from him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't lose. I can feel the bait so much better. I'm sure. But you lose a whole lot more fish too, dude. But you also that goes into matching the line with the rod, with the hardware, with the
it's a whole system.
It's a whole system. So I mean, I running the braid or running the mono. I can run lighter hooks. I can run smaller hooks. I don't have I mean, there was one time 18-pound striper completely mauled a brand new set of Gamakatsu 2X's on this bait. I mean, brand new set of hooks. I mean, every one of them just effed. But he also ran that bait into a wall too. He had the tail hook in this corner of his mouth and the hook side facing out, and he brushed up against the wall, a bluff wall, and that's probably what mangled the hooks more than anything.
Mm.
But I can get away with lighter hooks because
Sure.
I do. I mean the KGB swim bait rods are like giant crankbait rods. They bend pretty much well into the handle. I did get I've got Baitworks has got an exclusive deal and lineup with F5,
Yeah.
and I've got it's the 807, the 2 to 8, and so the KGB Extra Heavy is very, very true to its ratings. It will throw, I mean, it's rated for up to 7 ounces. I've thrown 6 1/4 on it, and it does it very well. But I was approached to kind of test it and fish these F5 rods, and I thought maybe I'd get that 807. It's a little stiffer in the backbone in this bottom half for throwing the bigger soft plastics and like the Depths 250. That's the bigger bait that I throw on the KGB Extra Heavy, which it throws it, and I can throw it confidently, but with the little extra backbone on that that F5 807, I can give it just a little more oomph and gain that extra little distance.
There you go.
But also I can. I don't know if this 9-inch Nate's is soft enough, but that 12-aught beast hook, what was it? Yeah, it's a little thicker gauge hook than the 11-aught VMC I run on the 8-inch mag drafts. I really didn't get into any fish that bit a 12-aught equipped softy this year yet on the extra heavy, on the KGB Extra Heavy. But then the way that those KGB rods bend, dude, it's like the more you bend them, the more they pull back. I mean, and there was a lot of times I was getting into them striper, and I was being too nice. The rod was loaded up, but they'd throw the hook, and I was like, "What the hell's going on?" And I'd get into a second or third fish, and I was like, "Maybe I gotta be meaner." And I'd crank down harder, and I'd pull back. I'd pull back harder, but the rod was still there, and giving and keeping tension, but you could continue to pull, and it would pull with you, and it was and they're lightweight, by the way, and they're lightweight,
Heck yeah.
stupid lightweight,
Good.
and they threw true to their weight.
And then those are the KGB ones, right?
Yeah.
So, but then they're gonna have. I got you. You're also testing on the F5 deal.
Yeah, the KGBs come in at a hefty price tag, $325, $330 a rod.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've tortured these rods for last year, and I've got the same 2 rods I picked up from the very first batch that he had last year, and 0 issues. I haven't had any eyelets fall out. I haven't had any guides come loose. I've had 0 breakage. I've not even heard any splintering. I mean, I caught that 40 on the Extra Heavy.
Mm-hmm.
All the mega dogfish this summer. I mean, 15, 20, 28, 33, 40 pounds were all on that Extra Heavy. Last year when I first got the rods, I did catch a shad fish. It was 18 pounds on the heavy. I caught the 9-1 on the heavy. I caught the 8-6 on the heavy. I mean, they're worth their what very little weight they weigh in gold. I mean, I weighed my extra heavy with a loose Super Duty 300 and a full spool of 20-pound big game mono. It weighs 14 ounces.
Wow, that's
Um,
pretty wild.
so if you can hold a beer can, you can hold this freaking swim bait rod all day.
Heck yeah.
So
Heck yeah. All right. Sorry, I was a little distracted. I was trying to make sure we had some inappropriate comments come up.
oh gosh, them spammers,
Yeah, I don't know
scammers.
what the heck that was, but I'm trying to keep that stuff off of here.
So it's all over the place.
Well, is there anything else that you want to mention before we sign out here? I mean, we could keep talking swim bait stuff. I know that people are going to have more questions, and if
We
they
got
want to, yeah, if they want to follow up with you, you can always get with him on, Facebook. If you got
Facebook,
questions about,
Instagram,
if you have questions
Facebook,
about
Instagram. Yep.
KGB and in particular, he says he's putting that quote on a shirt.
Which one?
I don't know. That's a good question. Hopefully not the sniffing my butt or whatever it was.
Oh my god.
But yeah, he's like a KGB guru, right? So he gets an
Yeah.
opportunity to play with all these cool new baits
So
and rods.
That was the other thing. The Spro Chad 180.
We didn't even talk about that.
No. Dude, I knew about that thing forever.
I'm ready to get one.
Oh.
I think they're getting ready to show up.
Yeah, I talked with Kevin about the release, and they're a little behind on it from the initial November iCast. They thought November.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing they had to go re-inspect something from the factory, and then it's gonna be like full bore on the production. But they're just building up the quantity for the pre-sale. I wish I could share the number, dude.
I bet it's insane.
Stupid.
I bet.
It's ridiculous.
Those things are, yeah. So the quote was, if you can hold a beer can, you can hold this swim bait rod all day.
Yeah.
That was the quote that he wants to put on a shirt. I guess that's.
Yeah, I think he's going back to dodgeball. That sounds like a dodgeball quote. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
But yeah, you can hold a tall boy. You can throw this bait all day.
Yeah.
So yeah, shoot him a message if you have any questions on that stuff. Definitely, he's a big fan of the KGB stuff, and he's proved himself over the years. Catching a winning bag on the Chad Shad only Table Rock Lake. Probably one of the only guys that was doing it especially that time of year.
I founded that series, right? And I teased them guys for years. I'm like, I'm gonna win a Table Rock tournament in the fall on a big bait. And when we had our championship tournament, it was always too warm. It never cooled off enough. It was like it'd either be late September or early October. And I mean, we were still seeing 75, 80 degree water temps. We'd have them in summers, and it just never panned out. And then I didn't get to fish the Winter Series last year. Hey, stop pulling on my cord. I kind of missed out on that, but that probably would have been my first opportunity to do that. But I kind of had a clear schedule this year. So I jumped at the opportunity and just took it because I knew it was going to work.
Well, we're gonna cheer you on at the next one. So hopefully you can do it again, and hopefully we'll be talking about another big bait win on Stockton.
Stop. But yeah, we got Stockton December 17th, January 14th. It's the 13th. whichever Saturday that is.
Yeah.
Lake the Ozarks. I've done okay at Lake the Ozarks.
Here, hold this for me.
Get down. Get out of view. Come on. But I'm wondering if we're gonna have open water.
Yeah.
Lake the Ozarks has froze over that time of year. That you might find us all out at Ha Ha Tonka where there's a warm water spring. It's a big, big long cove. It's actually where we held the very first MOYAK tournament.
Really?
Yep. Shotgun start. Dorman won that one.
Surprise.
Yeah. And then we got Taneycomo on February 23rd.
You excited about that one, aren't you?
A little bit.
Heck yeah.
So
all right.
we'll see how it all goes.
Hopefully we'll be seeing some more of those big bass pictures from you all winter long. And if you guys are in the Missouri, if you're in Missouri or in the Missouri area, I guess I can say that because there's guys that come over and fish from Kansas and come over and fish from Arkansas and stuff like that. So check it out. Check out the Winter Series. I fished one of the tournaments last year. It was the Table Rock event. I think it might have been the first event of the year. But it was definitely a lot warmer that time of year. This year has been way colder. It cooled down a lot sooner this year, and that was to your advantage. I suppose.
Yep.
Yeah. But
I've been catching some glide bait fish since the middle of September through October. So I mean that's kind of why I was like so psyched for that tournament. So I knew I'd at least get a big limit. I didn't know if it was going to be a winning limit. I mean, dude, I left the ramp at 2:00. Last cast was at 3:30.
Wow.
I mean, that's how bad the wind got, but that's also I was kind of confident, but I wasn't holding my breath.
Yeah.
So.
Heck yeah, man. Well, good job, and thank you for coming on here. Appreciate you coming on, and I always know that if I've got a question, I've got somebody like you to answer it. So keep that messenger open for me. I'll be asking you some follow-up questions here.
Oh, as always.
So, all right, man. Well, I appreciate you, and you have a good evening.
You too. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Have a good one.
Bye.
All right, guys. You know how it is. We get to talking fishing, and we just keep going and going, and eventually we got to cut this thing off. We're already late. We were supposed to start at 8:00 tonight, and I totally blanked my son's basketball team pictures, and I'm helping coach this year. So it would have been a bad look if we missed it. So we barely made it in time to get our pictures taken, but we did make it. Luckily, the team waited a little bit on us, and we got that picture taken. And so we were a little bit late tonight, but we're almost 2 hours into it. And trust me, if it wasn't already 10:00 and we had all these other things going on, we could probably talk for another couple hours. So tons of information from Richy. If you guys are interested in getting into kayak fishing, getting into swim bait fishing, if you're into looking into getting into tournament fishing, he's a great guy to ask about any of those things, and he's always willing to help out. So, and if you're in the Kansas area, if you're watching from the Kansas area, I know John, I believe he's right here in Kansas. He made a comment tonight about he says thanks for the time tonight, guys. I don't know enough to ask an intelligent question. I'm sure that's not true because I want to say I've judged fish years on Tourney X, and I believe you fished the state championship with us this year as well. So thanks for tuning in. But if you're in Kansas, like John is, like Danny is, like Scott is, and you want to get into kayak fishing, shoot me a message. Go over on Kansas Kayak Anglers Facebook page, and you can ask there how to get involved. Lots of cool opportunities around here, and Richy's got a really cool opportunity to swim bait fish there on Table Rock Lake and those Ozark lakes. So you're seeing that grow in popularity. You're seeing people fish those style of baits a lot more now than they ever have. And Richy was probably one of the first people to do it, and may have been, one of the first people to do it out of a kayak, I would imagine. So he kind of pioneered some of that stuff, I think, in his area. And so kind of cool to hear from him and all of his experiences. So guys, I just want to thank you guys for sticking with us throughout 65 episodes. And sometimes we come on and we talk to guys that are fishing local derbies. Sometimes we get people on that are fishing national events, and people that that have become household names. That is a cool thing about this podcast, and that is why I think it's awesome to put people on the same platform with these bigger names that are fishing these local events, because I think that the spotlight, they deserve the spotlight just as much, and it's really cool to put the spotlight on those local events because it helps introduce people and get more people involved in this sport. And that's what this whole thing's about. It's about growing it. So enough rambling from me. Everybody, I want to thank you. Richy, thank you for coming on tonight, and I'm going to go ahead and sign out. You guys have a good one. We'll see you on the next one.